Hey, Bradfo.
All right. You sound so at peace with everything, Greg.
I got to tell you, it's beautiful down here. It's my happy place.
I know.
Really
it's like I can picture you. You're sitting there in a smoking jacket with a pipe and maybe even a top hat. I don't even know. But you're just walking the streets of Nantucket. You pass by your neighbors. You're maybe it's the Obamas. I don't know. And you're just
That's the vineyard. That's the vineyard.
Well,
you're on the vineyard. Yeah,
and all you say, you don't even say hello. You just say McFarland, and they say McFarland, and you go on your way. It's what a day it is.
We exchange McFarlands.
All the cool kids are doing it. All the cool. Speaking of the cool kids, you're welcome for the 4th of July show. I'm like, oh my goodness, just got the ratings, doubled everybody up. It's what a show it was.
Now I didn't look at the specific days. I did see a very nice, an excellent weekly. It's only a weekly. It's 1 week of ratings. But you were on that 4th of July, so you can take some credit, I think.
As I said, I got the news yesterday that we doubled up whoever we needed to double up, and it was a good show, and it's always a pleasure to represent the Greg Hill show. So it was a good time.
What was so you worked just the 4th that week?
That's just the 4th. That's my
one day,
that's my jam. That's my jam. You need someone to work on the 4th of July? You call Bradford.
So what you're just to be clear, what you're claiming is the addition of you that 1 week in my chair led to the best weekly ratings.
You took that leap of faith. I said it was a piece of the puzzle. And so I was just saying that you're welcome to the day. I mean, I give you credit for everything else. All I can do is that day. I can only do it's the guy in the basketball team that goes in and scores the bucket at the end of a 30-point win. Mm-hmm. Yes. I can only do what I can do, and I scored the bucket.
But that doesn't explain why this particular segment sucks eggs every week.
Oh,
well, I mean, it's. I think the great game of baseball is the winner every time that I come on.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'm just kidding. You're the best. So somebody else who sounded cool and calm and collected this last week was Sam Kennedy on this show, and I'm wondering if the sense that you get is that they are looking at what they're going to get back here shortly, player-wise, from injury, is enough, and that they will not end up being buyers when it comes to the deadline next week.
Well, that's a good question, Greg. See, I pulled a Sam Kennedy there. I think that there is an element of that, and there's no way around it, right? I mean, we can't just totally discount the fact that you're getting back I think a pretty impactful guy in Trevor Story. What if Chris Sale's anything like he was before? That's going to be an impactful guy. John Schreiber. You go down the list. This is going to help. But I've said this all along, is that in that clubhouse right now, they know these guys are coming back, and they still say it would sure be nice if we got a little something. And I think that a little something, that can be the back of the rotation starter, that could be another relief pitcher, whatever it is. But for these guys, a lot of times a little goes a long way when it comes to just saying, hey, you know what? We believe in you. We believe that you guys are actually a contending team, and we are going to add to it.
Bradford, when you look at this team, it's like you say, we believe. We believe. But when you look at this team, do they truly, from the top down, look at this team and go, because where they are in the standings, have a realistic chance of making the postseason? And do they feel like we have to add because of where we are?
They should believe. I mean, and they'll tell you they do, but they should. I wrote this the other day. Here, you don't get this situation a whole lot where you have an entire American League which you can beat any team. Like, this doesn't happen. And all you need to understand that, go look at the National League. If they were going up against the Braves, they say, oh, well, you know what? I don't think you can beat the Braves in a long series, in a playoff series. But any team that you have in the American League right now, I think it is so wide open. And you are 2 games back. Yes, you are a flawed team. No question about it. But if you get the best version of yourself, which we've seen at times, and you get these additions we were talking about, you can absolutely compete with any team in the American League. That's not saying that you're a typical really, really good playoff team. It is what it is. But what it is right now is a flawed American League where you have ended up with a Boston Red Sox team which actually can compete with these other teams. So to answer your question, Wiggy, they should feel like we can go for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying they're going to sell out to go for it, but don't draw back. Go forward even just a little bit.
But Bradford, they can compete with any team. That's fine. But at the same time, they still are competing down to some teams. You look at how they looked against Oakland. Does that concern you?
Yeah, because it's a good point, Courtney, because before that Oakland series at Fenway, they were talking in that clubhouse about how, hey, guys, we got to show them what's what. We got to show that enough of this about doing poorly against under 500 teams, which they had done across the board. So, and they take care of business against the A's. Then they take care of business against the Cubs. But, yeah, that was absolutely a step back when they went to play the A's again. I will say this, conversely, this is another reason why you should go for it, because you look at their record against good teams, it's good. Like, they can actually play well against good teams. So they just have to get some consistency and you are still on the edge here heading into the trade deadline. You cannot take a step back, because if you get swept by the Braves, you get swept by the Giants, then you head into next Tuesday, all of a sudden the conversation's completely different.
Then if that's the way they feel, why is there the smoke that comes before the fire when it comes to a player like Pivetta, where you hear when people start saying, yeah, they're going to talk about moving Pivetta, I feel like that they're talking about moving Pivetta. Why are they looking at that if they should be buying?
Well, it depends on what you're getting back. I mean, you can do. They did a poor job of doing both last year. But you can do both. I mean, you can absolutely take away from the Major League roster and add and end up being a better team. We look at going way back for the old people, the Nomar trade. You can do this, but you have to be able to get hit on the right things. Last year, their biggest mistake was the guy that they traded away was perceived in that clubhouse as a guy. It didn't matter whether you get Hosmer back or Pham back or whoever back. You traded away what they thought was a foundation guy, and that gutted that clubhouse. Now, you traded away Pivetta. What are you getting back? Another guy I'll bring up, Verdugo. Verdugo could absolutely be traded. But what are you getting back? And when the deadline, when the smoke clears, are you still a better team? Are you still a contending team? And you can. I think that you can do that even by dealing guys like I mentioned.
Well, Bradford, when you say dealing certain guys, right? If you're the Red Sox, aren't you looking to go, if we are going to do that, what you brought up Verdugo, you brought up Paxton, doesn't it seem like it would be more beneficial for them to move on from, let's say, a Verdugo who is who's a fielder, more of a bat, than moving on from a pitcher? Because it almost seems like that's the position of need more than anything.
Yeah, I listen. They trade James Paxton. It's a different conversation. You can't win without James Paxton because you need him so much, as you point out, Wiggy. Mm-hmm. With Verdugo, it's a complicated situation because he's a free agent after next year. They have, as he told me the other day, they have not talked to him about a contract extension. So right now, this is the most value that you're going to get for Alex Verdugo with a couple months in this season and next season. Now, it's complicated because he's a really good player and is a big part of this team. But sometimes you just have to make those sort of decisions, and it's going to be tough. It's all, again, where you land after Tuesday in terms of your team and how your team feels about it is a big part of it as well.
Bradford, next time we talk to you, it will be the trade deadline, shockingly enough. What's your final prediction on what the Angels do with Shohei?
I don't think they're going to trade him. I love the conversation. I love the potential of it, but they're in it just enough. And I said this before. If you're the Angels, you just have to go to them and say, hey, Shohei, here you go. here's $700 million. This is what we're willing to offer you. Are you going to sign it? And if he says, if you get no inclination that he's going to sign, then I don't care where you are in the standings. You got to trade him. But I think that they feel like they have a chance at signing him, and they're in it just enough to say, he's going to be a piece of the puzzle in making a playoff run. And we all want to see Shohei and Trout in the playoffs. Absolutely. And I'll say it again. I will scream it from the mountaintops. Sorry, everybody in Boston. He is not going to land here, no matter how close the New Balance building is to.
Why do you say that?
Because, first of all, they are never going to do whatever they need to do if they did put him on the trade market. And when it comes to the free agency, there are just too many teams. Steve Cohen of the Mets, the Padres, the
Yankees.
Dodgers, the Yankees, who are willing to build a team in a far different way than I think the Red Sox and Chaim Bloom want to build a team. And the other part about this, and I said this the other day, when Shohei Ohtani took his visits, he didn't take a visit with Boston. And he took a visit with primarily West Coast teams, and I believe the Cubs was the only sort of Midwest team that he took a visit with. But Shohei is probably going to end up on the West Coast with a team paying a crap load of money that he feels like is going to win.
Well, I wish the Red Sox would be the ones who went to him and said,
we all do, right?
As you said, hey, Shohei, and they went and said, hey, Shohei, here's $800 million, Shohei.
Yeah, and by the way, if you want your sneakers, they're right around the corner. It's I mean, I told you this before. The Red Sox so desperately wanted him to be. I love it. I always surface this photo. They have the Ohtani Bruins jerseys and Patriots jersey and Celtics jersey. They still have those kicking around. And if we know, like if those aren't going to get the job done, then what are we doing? Come on, let's go.
All right. Well, you just ruined an additional month of Wiggy leads, but that's okay.
No. Listen, Greg, that was a different time. Lou said it. That he'll go to the highest bidder regardless of what coast that's on. And if you're the Red Sox, you can afford it, and you make the highest bid.
What Bradford's saying is, and I think he's right, is that Chaim Bloom doesn't want to build a team that way with a massively expensive free agent.
But I think he might be the unicorn that he would be willing to pay. Now, it might be different to, like Bradford said, to trade all these pieces to get him. But if after you wait till he's a free agent and now you don't have to move on from these pieces and you could build this team around Shohei with these young players and you're willing to pay him, you'll get the deal done.
Well, here's the thing. If you go back to like how they've done business, name the player. They got Trevor Story, but I think there was a lot of different reasons for that happening that they ended up getting that. But when they're in competition, for the most part in free agency, they don't usually win out in free agency. They aren't usually the team that gets super uncomfortable, which you're going to have to get super uncomfortable for Ohtani. Whereas Steve Cohen and the Padres, and even the Dodgers, those are the teams that say, hey, you know what? We don't care. I think that the Red Sox care when they actually set a price in free agency.
Well, it's not the way Chaim does business. He wouldn't even call Schwarber back. I mean, it's depressing, but I agree with you. I don't think they get him. All right, Bradford, as always, a pleasure. Really, honestly.
Hey, listen, you be careful out there in the mean streets of Nantucket. All right.
Yeah, so we'll be very careful. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, thank you. See ya.
That is Rob Bradford.